So we're going to head into some non-tech best of, worst of, because as you know, we do have our For the Culture segment where we talk about things we kind of like. So the first up, best of, worst of, binge TV shows. We've been in the pandemic for a while now. A lot of shows have come out. What is your best of, worst of?
So my best of was South Side. It started on Comedy Central and HBO picked it up,
Mhm.
which I watched it a little bit. No, was it? I don't even think it was Comedy Central. It was some station that I probably didn't get on a regular.
Mhm.
Watched one or two episodes. Wasn't involved enough in it. Didn't sit down and watch it. I was like, oh, this is okay. But when
Mhm.
HBO Max picked it up, I ended up binge watching season one and season two all in a row because it is a it's hard to explain, but it's South Side is based on Chicago. I mean, for those who don't know, when you refer to South Side, most people think of Chicago, so that's where it's
Mhm.
based out of. Not going to get too much into the characters or the details or anything, but the way I explain it is accurately ignorant in the sense that it is the type of show that white people get to think of it like a Seinfeld or a what's that other show that the creator from Seinfeld made? Um,
All I know is
um, anyway, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
oh, okay.
So think of South Side, Arrested Development,
Hmm.
those type of shows that they're just nonsensical, they're stupid, it's not realistic, but it's funny because it's just nonsensical. It's not something that, you think a lot of shows that black people put on, it's got to be serious, it's got to be perfect. If it's not perfect, people are going to poke holes in it, and it's not accurate, and it doesn't portray the blah 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 blah. And this is coming from black people critiquing
Right.
it's either the best or too
The
many
elitist
holes.
version of it, yeah. It
Right,
doesn't
right,
represent me.
right. Southside is just a ignorant portrayal of characters that happen to live in Chicago without necessarily trying to cast Southside in some sort of light, whether it be good or bad.
It
It's just
just
like an
is.
ignorant show, but the culture, the way, some of the characters, the topics, that's something we can relate to, but it doesn't portray us directly. It's not a direct
Right.
portrayal. So that's
Right.
one of the reasons why I like it so much. So definitely check it out. I think it's on HBO Max.
Hmm.
The worst that I had was Clickbait. It was on Netflix, and it had a build up, build up, build up, build up, build up, and then when you got to the reason why everything happened, I'm like, this is just dumb. This is a
Stupid.
dumb reason as to why
This
this
whole thing
thing
even happened.
escalated to where it was. This is just stupid.
So the hook is they got you in the beginning because it was like, oh my God.
and
And it was
they
like really so good
and everybody,
until it
you
wasn't.
suspected everybody. Nobody was excluded. You had to look at everybody, but then the actual people and reasons is like, oh, that's what y'all came up with. All that's what y'all came up with. So
Yeah.
that was my worst. And I think, like I said, that's on Netflix.
Yep. And I just started Southside, and Sergeant Turner is my favorite because she is hilarious. So I'm looking forward to getting into finishing season one and getting into season two. All right. My best binge TV show, Ted Lasso.
Okay.
I'd heard so much about it. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to watch this show about some American person going to London to coach a soccer team. That's stupid. I first episode, I was like, okay, I'm locked in. So I think it's, fantastic. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those shows where, it wasn't one of those that you can't. I initially was kind of like holding my breath, like waiting for the worst to happen, but it was just so pure and good. Of course, it has it's like down moments, but it
Mhm.
wasn't like what
Catastrophic.
right, like you're used to being like traumatized
Right.
by these television shows, and it was just pure and good. And you were able to find the good in all of it. So that was definitely my my best. Now my worst is this Jupiter's Legacy. So I randomly came upon it. I didn't even realize it was a whole thing until after I started watching it and started, looking at some of the hashtags because it's a superhero movie. I'm a Marvel girl. I love superhero movies. I was like, let me get into this. This was the worst. I was like, I watched the first episode. I'm like, okay, all right. All right. So then I watched the second one. I was like, it has to like get better. It has to like be something. And I think I ended up watching maybe 4 or 5 episodes, and I just quit. I said, I'm not doing this. This is
No,
stupid.
I didn't
This
even
is
watch it
dumb.
because I heard it was that bad, and I was like, you know what? I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it was a bad wait. I'm looking. Yeah, I think I may have gotten 4 or 5. But yeah, I didn't even realize it was based on a comic book. I was like, okay. I didn't find that out until after. I was like, who came up with this? But yeah, the worst. Don't do it to yourself. Okay. Best of worst of movie.
All right, so this one is came out today. I haven't watched it yet, but I've been waiting on this for the longest. So even without watching it, is going to be my best of 2021, which is Matrix Resurrection. Basically, this is the continuation of the story from the movies, the Matrix movies that we saw in the late '90s,
Mhm.
and it kind of picks up to where, based on the trailers, from based on what I've able to understand, picks up with Neo after he's been reinserted back into the Matrix. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, how things turn out. Of course, if you remember the plot, I'm not going to give you the whole plot, but Neo is not the first and only savior of the Matrix. So it's
Mhm.
interesting to see what they do after they restart the Matrix all over again. So that's why I'm interested into this one. So I'm already going to give it my best movie of 2021. I haven't watched too many movies, but most of the movies I've watched are just okay. That was entertaining, but I'm
Mhm.
really looking forward to this one. Today, I
Oh,
binge
it's just out
watched.
today, Wednesday,
Yeah, it came. Well, yeah, right. So
on
if you're
HBO
listening to
Max.
this, it's
It's
already
in the
been out a
theaters.
couple of
Yep.
days. But
Mhm.
if you're watching this live, it came out this morning.
Mhm.
I binge watched. Just got finished watching the original Matrix and the Reloaded.
Just to
So
get
after
ready.
this taping, I'm going to go get my little exercise in. I'm going to eat my dinner. I'm going to get the kids situated, and then I'm gonna watch the Matrix. Um,
Revolutions? The last
yes,
one?
and yes, the
Revolutions?
last
I didn't like
two.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of liked it
You did?
because everybody had an important role. I like movies to where there's no throwaway characters.
Mhm.
There are a lot of
I
TV
see that.
shows and a lot of movies to where somebody's not really integral to the actual story. I think the fact that everybody played, all the characters rather, had a role in the third Matrix.
Mhm.
That's why I liked it the most.
Yeah.
So again, like I said, I'm gonna binge watch those two together later tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. The worst movie was that James Bond, No Time to Die.
I'm not a James Bond
Um,
person, so I don't, yeah, I'm
it
just
was so
good.
predictable. It was so
Mhm.
predictable. You knew
Is this
what
the
was going to
one with
happen.
what's the guy?
Daniel
Craig?
Craig,
Yes. Is this his?
this is his last one.
Okay.
So spoiler alert, he dies. I mean,
Who
No Time to
cares?
Die with the title, you kind of figure. So that kind of leads me to, it was super predictable. And then it was even worse in some cases. The plot, the evil guy, the 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 antagonist, his reasoning for wanting to do stuff was dumb. And then for him to have, once he reveals his plan, the plan gets foiled just like that. It's like he didn't even try that hard to try to keep the plan going. He was like, this is my big plan. And then James Bond was like, yeah, I'm not going to let you do that. He was like, all right, well, since you ain't going to let me do that, I'm going to make your life worse. It's like, well, what was the plan? Was the plan to actually carry out this grandiose thing? Or was
Mhm.
your plan just to make James Bond terrible and miserable? You could have just made James Bond miserable. Forget this whole plan thing. Just make his life miserable. So that was why I thought it was the worst. It was just a letdown. Me and my wife, this was probably the first movie me and my wife went to go watch in theaters since COVID, and to go through all that effort just for it to be a letdown. I was like,
Yeah. I yeah, I I haven't watched Resurrection. I am super excited to watch it. Like I said, I don't know anything about the James Bond, but my best of, maybe because I literally just came from seeing it, Spider-Man No Way From Home. It was so good. And I have it muted. When it first came out, I muted every variation of it. So I didn't see any Spider-Man, anything on my timeline. I was like, thank you, because I was trying to, it's only, of course, available in theaters.
Mhm.
And I was trying to find a time to go where, it was definitely reserved seating. So I kind of see where it was. So then I found a theater not too far from me, that had like a 10:30 a.m. show. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I looked and it was pretty empty when I checked that morning, but it doesn't have reclining seats. So I couldn't go there. And so I went today, and I took Aiden, and we watched it. We did go to Phipps to watch it. And I picked a showing. It was early afternoon, and it wasn't completely full. There was no one sitting beside me. There was another kid sitting beside him, but for the most part, it wasn't too bad. But
That wasn't our experience.
oh
I should have
really?
picked. I should have waited until this week because me and my
Hmm.
wife went on Friday. Uh, it released last Thursday night. Of course, everybody see it on Friday. I should have did some pre-planning because kids are on early release, and I thought I was going to watch it at middle of the day during lunch when nobody be around. This theater was packed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
packed because one, because it was Spider Man. Two, it was opening weekend, and three,
Mm-hmm.
the kids were in the high school kids wasn't in school. Either they had
Mm.
early release or they ditched to go watch Spider Man, and all of them decided to ditch to move to the movie theater that me and my wife went through. So even though we got in, I was mad uncomfortable
Yeah.
watching the whole thing to where I even though I'm trying to eat better, two things I do not turn down: cake and popcorn. So got my big tub of popcorn, went in there, it was super packed. So I'm watching a movie, take my mask
It's
off,
like,
eat some popcorn, put my mask back down. It was just weird, just mad
yeah,
uncomfortable.
yeah,
That's not how I want to enjoy a movie. So even
yeah,
though I thought it was pretty good, I was mad distracted.
yeah. And I wanted to go that opening weekend, but everywhere I looked, it was so packed. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna wait. I was like, I'll wait till next week. I'll go ahead and mute everything. I exercised some patience, which is shocking for me. That I didn't, go out to see it. But I did. And even though, the experience was better, it still were people in there. But I really enjoyed it. It was a great it was a great movie. Looking forward to, I think they said they've already started filming Spider-Man 4. So looking forward to that. My worst movie is Malcolm and Marie.
Okay.
If you guys remember that, it's the one with Zendaya, even though I love her, and John David Washington. I've enjoyed him in things that I've seen. It was the writing. The writing was bad.
All
The
right.
concept was bad. And black people are not doing what they had those black people doing in that movie. Um,
This is another one of those. I'll take your word for it and won't watch it.
yeah. Yeah. So there was a big Twitter discourse online about it as well. And I stand Zendaya down, but it was not great. It was
Right.
not great. I like, because I think she ensured that a certain percentage were black creators and all that good stuff. Love it, love to see it. But the actual content,
Mhm.
no, no, thank you. I care not to see that
All
ever again in
right.
life. And I will never get that time back. So